Millions of young men now rate their own faces on a 1 to 8 scale, born on incel forums. The system, Looksmaxxing, promises to maximize attractiveness through grooming, fitness, and at its extreme, surgery. The unsettling part is that the science partially backs it up. But between a skincare routine and a jaw implant at 21, something went wrong. And the line between self-improvement and self-destruction was never where you would expect. On anonymous forums in the early 2000 teens, a new vocabulary began to take hold. Posts on 4chan's poll board and the now defunct Incels site introduced the idea of Looksmaxxing, a word that stitched together self-improvement with a sense of genetic fatalism. The earliest threads read like a mix of confession and strategy, with users trading stories of rejection and swapping tips on everything from haircuts to jaw exercises. By 2014, these conversations had solidified into dedicated subforums, each with its own guides, checklists, and a numeric scale called the PSL, short for Physical Sexuality Level. Forum archives from 2015 and 2016 show the PSL scale taking root, rating male faces from 1 to 8. It was not just about looks, it was a system, a way to quantify and compare. Moderators with names like AlphaGod and Looks King posted step-by-step guides on how to exfoliate, when to start orthodontics, which fitness routines to follow, and even how to use hormone therapy. The tone was part warning, part hope. If you could just maximize every variable, maybe you could escape the bottom ranks. For many, these boards offered a sense of control in a world that felt rigged against them. A former member speaking under a pseudonym describes the early appeal. It was the first place anyone told me how to take care of my skin or why my clothes did not fit. It felt like a manual for life no one else had given me. The posts were not just about aesthetics, they mapped out a daily routine, a checklist that promised transformation. Skincare, fitness, tailored clothing, dental care, and posture were all broken down into actionable steps, with progress measured in before and after photos and peer ratings. Between 2015 and 2019, mentions of Looksmaxxing rose sharply across Reddit, Discord, and other image boards. The language spread, and so did the checklist mentality. What began as a fringe response to feelings of exclusion became a codified playbook with its own logic and incentives. The PSL scale and the daily max routine became standard currency in these circles, setting the stage for a movement that would soon leap from obscure forums to mainstream platforms and bring with it both practical advice and a new set of risks. Physical appearance shapes first impressions in ways that are both measurable and consistent across cultures. Psychologists have spent decades studying the so-called halo effect, the tendency for people to assume that those who look good are also more competent, trustworthy, and likable. Meta-analyses of over 100 studies put the effect size for attractiveness on competence and honesty ratings at about D of 0.4 to 0.6. That means a clear, healthy complexion or a well-fitted shirt can nudge perception in your favor by a meaningful margin. Dermatologists point to sunscreen and the basics of a simple skincare routine as the foundation. Daily cleansing, moisturizer, and SPF 30 or higher reduce visible aging and acne, with randomized trials showing up to a 30% drop in premature skin changes after a year. One board-certified dermatologist puts it plainly, sunscreen is the single most effective anti-aging product. Everything else is secondary. Retinoids and niacinamide can help, but the basics matter most, and these are not luxury routines. Over-the-counter products used consistently drive most of the gain. Personal trainers echo this logic for resistance training and confidence. Regular resistance training, 3 to 4 times a week, improves posture, muscle tone, and confidence, all of which raise perceived attractiveness. Longitudinal studies find that participants who added strength training improved their social confidence and were rated as more attractive by new acquaintances, with effect sizes around 0.3 standard deviations. Cardio adds a smaller, but still real, boost to perceived vitality. Trainers stress that these are sustainable changes, not shortcuts. Muscle and posture change the silhouette. That is what people notice first. Tailors see the same pattern in clothing, emphasizing fit over labels. Off-the-rack shirts and jackets rarely fit most men well. Adjusting sleeve length or taking in the waist can transform how someone is perceived, often for less than the cost of a new shirt. One master tailor says, "Fit beats brand every time. You can look sharp in basics if they follow your lines." Studies in retail settings confirm that tailored clothing increases perceived status and likability by up to 9%. These interventions, grooming, skincare, fitness, and clothing fit, are not magic bullets, but they are practical, evidence-backed steps that most men never learned in school. The research is clear, small, consistent improvements compound over time. The probabilistic nature of these gains matters. Not everyone will see the same results, and no routine guarantees social success, but the odds improve. What Looksmaxxing gets right at its core is the power of basic self-care to move the needle, not just in how others see you, but in how you see yourself. The next question is, what happens when these sensible habits are pushed to extremes? The tipping point comes quietly, often disguised as discipline. What starts as a checklist, cleanser, gym, tailoring can spiral into a numbers game that never ends. On the largest Looksmaxxing forums, users post daily updates, chasing higher PSL scores and dissecting minute changes in jawline or brow shape. The PSL scale, once a rough guide, becomes a scoreboard. Threads spike with talk of jaw implants and canthal tilt surgery. In 2022 alone, one Discord group logged a 31% increase in surgery-related posts after a viral before and after video. Surgeons report a steady uptick in consultations from young men who arrive with forum screenshots and algorithmic face scores, convinced that bone structure is destiny. The escalation isn't just physical, it's psychological. Forum surveys and academic studies show that men who rate themselves daily on these scales are more likely to report anxiety, depression, and body dysmorphic symptoms. A Dalhousie University study found that 62% of active users met criteria for clinical anxiety, with nearly half showing signs of depression. One former member describes the cycle. You start checking your face every hour. Every flaw feels permanent. If the number doesn't go up, you feel like a failure. Clinicians see a pattern. Young men, some barely out of high school, seeking surgery not for medical reasons, but to chase an ideal set by anonymous peers. Psychologists describe an anxiety loop of constant comparison, obsessive self-scrutiny, and a sense of never being enough. The forums reward extreme transformations with upvotes, while those who don't measure up are pushed to try harder or disappear. Underneath the pursuit of self-improvement, a toxic culture of objectification takes hold. Women are reduced to targets, validation becomes a commodity, and empathy is replaced by metrics. The promise of transformation curdles into a sense of emptiness as the quest for perfection turns inward, feeding on itself. A 5-step plan offers a safe, practical entry point for anyone who wants to improve their appearance without falling into the traps of obsession or pseudoscience. The first step is basic grooming. A regular haircut every 4 weeks, clean-shaven or neatly trimmed facial hair, and daily oral hygiene cost less than $20 a month and deliver immediate, visible results. Experts stress that these habits signal self-care and boost first impressions by about 10% within weeks. Second, a simple skincare routine, cleanser, moisturizer, and SPF 30 sunscreen can be found at any pharmacy for under $40 a month. Dermatologists agree this is not about vanity, but about health. Consistent use reduces acne, slows visible aging, and improves skin texture. No need for complicated regimens or expensive serums, just the basics done daily. Third, resistance training 3 times a week transforms posture and muscle tone. You do not need a gym membership. Bodyweight exercises at home are free and effective for beginners. Studies show that after 3 months, most people notice better confidence and a more athletic silhouette. Fourth, clothing, it matters more than brand. A well-fitting shirt or jacket tailored for $25 or less instantly sharpens appearance and increases perceived status. Stylists recommend a wardrobe audit. Start with 1 shirt and 1 pair of pants that fit your frame, then have them altered if needed. The visual impact is immediate and the cost is modest. Fifth, posture awareness. Keeping your chin up and shoulders back projects confidence and improves how others see you. While some forums push mewing for jawline changes, evidence for facial bone reshaping is lacking. Focus instead on standing tall and moving with intention. These habits are proven to make a difference. Discard the rest. Ignore numeric rating systems, avoid pseudoscientific claims about bone structure, and steer clear of any advice that objectifies others or pushes surgery as a shortcut. Experts agree real gains come from health, self-care, and social connection, not from chasing perfection or comparing yourself to an algorithm. Today, real self-improvement means separating proven habits, like skincare, fitness, and posture, from untested claims and toxic fatalism. Social warmth and confidence shape perception more than bone structure ever will. If appearance becomes obsession, emptiness follows. The challenge now is to choose health over hype and connection over comparison.